David H. Souter, former Supreme Court Justice known for thoughtful jurisprudence, dies at 85. Cause of death and final words revealed. May 9th, 2025. David H. Souter, a former U.S. Supreme Court Justice known for his independent and often surprising legal philosophy, passed away at the age of 85 on May 9th, 2025, at his home in Weir, New Hampshire. His death marks the end of a quiet but highly influential chapter in American legal history. Souter, who retired from the High Court in 2009 after almost 2 decades of service, will be remembered as one of the most intellectual and steadfast jurists in recent memory. Cause of death. Souter's family confirmed that he succumbed to complications from Parkinson's disease. Throughout his battle with the illness, which he had faced for several years, Souter remained remarkably composed and dedicated to his work. A longtime law clerk recalled, "Even as his health declined, Justice Souter continued to read cases and exchange letters with his colleagues. His commitment to his role never wavered, and his health challenges were met with the same fortitude he showed throughout his career." Final words. In a poignant moment that encapsulated his lifelong commitment to justice and law, Souter's final words were reportedly, "The law endures." This phrase, spoken in the final days of his life, was noted by those closest to him as a reflection of his deep reverence for the legal system. According to those present, the words were spoken after a late-night reading session in which Souter had been reviewing a legal draft sent by his former colleague, Justice Elena Kagan. It was a fitting end for a man whose entire career was devoted to the careful study and application of the law. From New Hampshire to the Supreme Court. Souter was born on September 17, 1939, in Melrose, Massachusetts, and raised in the small town of Weir, New Hampshire. His path to the highest court in the land was marked by determination and a quiet, introspective nature. He was a Rhodes Scholar who studied at Oxford before returning to the United States to serve as New Hampshire's Attorney General. In 1990, President George H.W. Bush nominated Souter to the U.S. Supreme Court, a move that was initially seen as an attempt to solidify the conservative wing of the court. However, Souter's tenure on the Supreme Court defied expectations. Despite his nomination by a Republican president, he quickly became known for his thoughtful and independent approach to the law. Over time, he emerged as one of the court's most unpredictable justices, often siding with the court's more liberal wing on key decisions, though always guided by a deep commitment to the Constitution. Key decisions and jurisprudence. Throughout his career, Justice Souter participated in many landmark decisions that helped shape American law. Some of his most well-known opinions include Planned Parenthood v. Casey, 1992. In this critical case, Souter co-authored the majority opinion that upheld the central tenets of Roe v. Wade, ensuring the continued protection of a woman's right to choose. This ruling, while controversial, highlighted Souter's commitment to upholding constitutional principles even when it was not politically expedient. Bush v. Gore, 2000. Souter dissented in the 2000 election case that ultimately decided the outcome of the presidential election. His opinion expressed concern over the court's intervention in a state matter and warned about the implications the ruling would have on public trust in the judiciary. Atkins v. Virginia, 2002. Souter was part of the majority that ruled the execution of individuals with intellectual disabilities violated the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. This decision was one of the key moments in his career that showcased his empathy and understanding of the human condition, especially in the context of justice. Souter's jurisprudence was not defined by a strict adherence to ideology, but rather by a steadfast belief in the rule of law and a commitment to interpreting the Constitution as a living document. His ability to rise above partisanship made him a key figure on the court, often serving as the swing vote in cases where the court was deeply divided. Retirement and legacy. In 2009, Souter surprised many when he announced his decision to retire from the Supreme Court, citing a desire to return to New Hampshire and live a quieter life. He was replaced by Justice Sonia Sotomayor, and his departure left a noticeable void on the court. While he had become less publicly visible in the years following his retirement, Souter remained a respected figure among his peers, and his opinions continued to shape legal discussions long after he left the bench. Souter's legacy is often discussed in terms of his independence. While he was nominated by a Republican president, his decisions often transcended party lines. He was a justice who was not afraid to stand alone when he felt it was necessary, and his ability to craft opinions that bridged ideological divides made him a unique and respected voice on the court. Tributes from colleagues and leaders. Following news of Souter's passing, tributes poured in from colleagues and political figures alike. Chief Justice John Roberts, who worked alongside Souter for many years, called him the most careful reader the court has ever had, highlighting his intellectual rigor and his ability to examine every case in depth. Justice Elena Kagan, who succeeded Souter on the court, reflected on the impact he had on her career, saying, "Justice Souter showed me what it meant to be a true public servant, always putting the law first and never swayed by political pressures." Kagan also noted how Souter was often known for his fondness for hiking, and how his love of the outdoors seemed to mirror his straightforward and unpretentious approach to his work. President Joe Biden, who worked closely with Souter during his time as a U.S. Senator, expressed his condolences, saying, "Justice Souter was a reminder that the law is not a tool for political power, but a foundation for democracy. His integrity, his intellect, and his dedication to fairness will continue to guide our legal system for years to come." A quiet final chapter. True to his unassuming nature, Souter made specific requests for his posthumous arrangements. He declined a state funeral, preferring instead to have a private ceremony with family and close friends. He requested that donations be made to the New Hampshire Historical Society in lieu of flowers, and his extensive journals and personal papers were donated to Harvard Law School, where they are expected to provide valuable insights into his thoughts and legal philosophy. The Supreme Court has announced that it will dedicate the October term to Souter's memory, inviting former clerks, legal scholars, and members of the public to reflect on his contributions to the law. In the words of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who served with Souter on the court for many years, Justice Souter reminded us that the law is not about partisan politics, but about understanding the human condition and applying our best judgments to serve justice. David H. Souter's death marks the loss of a giant in American jurisprudence. His contributions to the law, his humility, and his independent thinking will be remembered for generations to come. While his public presence may have been quiet, his impact on the American legal system was profound and lasting.